to the Relentless CEO Podcast.
Relentless!
With Adam Kifer. Follow your path to success alongside icons and industry leaders in martial arts, fitness, and more.
Let's go!
This is the Relentless CEO Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Relentless CEO Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Kifer, and we are jumping into a topic that was spurred by a question one of my private coaching clients asked me at our last in-person meeting. They're like, what advice would you give the 20-year-old version of you? So I thought about this long and hard and came up with 10 pieces of advice that I would give the 20-year-old version of me. And hopefully some of this advice will resonate with you guys and be things that you can apply in your business or in your philosophy of running your business to help just make things easier. Okay, number one, you've heard me talk about this a lot, but when I was 20, I had no vision of anything in life. I had no vision of what my life wanted to be like in 3 years or 5 years or 10 years. I didn't have any vision for what I wanted to do business-wise either at this time. And the problem is when you don't have a vision or you don't have an end goal or something that you're working towards, you can't find a path to get there because you don't know where the path needs to lead you, right? So having your vision not only helps you to have a clear idea of where you want to take your business, but the other side of it is it allows you to communicate to other people what the end result is going to be. So when you have a team of people that you're working with, they can all be rowing the boat in the same direction as you because they all know where the company is supposed to go in the next 5 years. And that's something that never really was important to me growing up. I didn't hear people talk about it until I saw Cameron Herold for the first time. Then I read Vivid Vision, which is still one of, I think, the best books that you can implement for your business. And that is what got me really to be completely bought into creating a vision for the business. So for all of you entrepreneurs out there, one of the things that I cannot hit home enough is having a written vision of where you want to take your company, okay, and where you want to go into the future with your company, because it just helps you to make better decisions in your business. When you know what the end result should be in 5 years, you're going to make better decisions now to help get you there, to keep you on track with that vision. And all decision making, I know you guys have heard me talk about this before, but there's 3 things that I always think about. Does it, number one, fulfill my vision for the company? Does it fit the strategy that we have in order to get there? And then number 3, does it align with all of my core values? Because if it doesn't match one of those things, it's probably not the right decision for your business moving forward. But get really clear on that vision. If you need help, go read Vivid Vision by Cameron Herold. It is awesome. All right, number 2. My grandpa used to have this saying that opinions are like armpits. Everyone has one and they stink. All right. When I was younger, when I was 20, I was the epitome of a people pleaser. I just wanted people to like me. So all of my decisions were heavily influenced by what would get other people's attention and positive attention at that. And I wasn't always making the right decisions for myself. I wasn't making the right decisions for my business because I was so worried about what everybody thought about me. And man, I cannot tell you how many years I lost making progress, especially on the business side, because I was too worried about what other people would think. Here's what I found out. When you reach a certain level of success, people aren't going to understand you because they're going to look at you as the weird person doing something different than everyone else. Why haven't you been watching every season of Game of Thrones? Why haven't you been doing this? It's because, hey, motherfucker, I am on track to make my vision become reality in the next 3 to 5 years. That's why. While you're watching TV, I'm working on my business. While you're watching TV, I'm investing time in my family. While you're watching TV, I'm managing my finances. To be successful, you shouldn't strive to be understood because it doesn't come with the territory. How many times do you think people were questioning Elon Musk as he was building his companies and his businesses and questioning, he's going to make rockets now? The guy was part of PayPal and now he wants to make rockets? That sounds insane, right? But if Elon actually listened to the opinions of other people, he would not have built what he has built. Okay, and every major successful entrepreneur has been told that their idea is terrible, that they're going to go nowhere with it. Like Walt Disney was shit on so hard during his journey to being successful by everyone. He was trying to make money making full-length cartoon movies, which had never been done before. Everyone was telling him he was crazy. Don't seek to be understood. Your inner circle, they will understand you. Your spouse, they will understand you. Besides that, you don't need anyone else to understand you, okay? Because you're setting a new precedent. You're doing things differently because you want different results than what the average person gets. One of the things I always talk to my team about at the martial arts school is the law of averages. So like the average person reads 2 books a year. The average person sleeps 8 hours a day. The average person has a screen time on their phone of 8 hours a day. So if you want to be average, that's a blueprint you follow, and everyone will completely understand you. But if you want to be something more than average, you have to do something differently than what the average person does. And as soon as you start doing things differently than what the average person does, they're not going to understand you. And for me, that is okay. I don't need people to understand me. All right. And it helps too when people message you like just stupid comments about things that you're doing, like in the business world, like to just be able to look at that and be like, sweet, another person doesn't understand me. That's like bonus points for me because that means that's telling me I'm going in the right direction when people don't understand the moves that I'm making in my business. So for you guys, I'm not telling you to not give any credit to other people's opinions, but know whose opinions are worth listening to and know whose opinions aren't worth listening to. Okay, read The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. It does a good job jumping headfirst into this topic. If you find yourself being a people pleaser, that book was written for you. All right, so don't place too much importance on the opinions of other people. Man, I wish someone throat punched me when I was 20 and told me that. All right, next one. This is another good one as well. Data over feelings. Data over feelings. All right, question for all of you. When we're emotional, how is our decision making? Are we making decisions with clarity? Are we making good decisions that get us even better results when we're emotional? I would place money on no. We probably make terrible decisions when we're emotional. I know that if my wife and I are frustrated at us, okay, and I say something out of frustration, I'm probably regretting it a couple hours later, okay, because I don't have clarity to be able to think clearly in that moment because the emotions are clouding my thought patterns, right? So for all of us, why would we ever make any business decisions based on how we feel, okay? There's a different thing with that gut feeling that's telling you to do the right thing or and not do the wrong thing. That's a totally different animal. But what I'm saying is where we're just sort of guessing because we don't really have the data to make the decision or we don't know the data to make the decision. As a business owner, I should be able to ask you what your gross revenue is like as of today, and you should be able to tell me. I should be able to ask you what your attrition rate is as a membership business owner, and you should be able to tell me what your attrition rate has been over the last 90 days. I should be able to ask you what is your average revenue per member per month? Like how much is the average person paying per month all together, pro shop, all that stuff. I should be able to ask you what your cost per acquisition is. Okay, $112 is our cost per acquisition for Move. Okay, we're growing. We'll be at $38,000 this month in our 6 month being open, 7th month being open, 6th month being open. And we're projected to hopefully get to 55, 60 range by the end of the year, which would be a great first year of being opening. We know these numbers because we look at these numbers daily. We talk about these numbers at our staff meetings. It is something that you have to know, okay? Because here's the thing. Data has no feelings, okay? Data is not going to lie to you. It's not going to point you in the wrong direction. Data is going to give you facts without feelings, okay? And when I look at the data, I have to make my decisions based on this. Because when we let the feelings and the emotions get involved, it clouds the data. I've had clients that I've met with on the agency side that are like, hey, Adam, I think we're going to cancel our membership with the agency. And then I jump on a call with them and I'm like, all right, why do you want to cancel? And they're like, well, we don't think we're getting like a return on the investment. Maybe they're paying like the $1,000 per month and $1,000 in ad spend, right? And then we'll look at their numbers. And I'll be like, all right, what is the average lifetime value of one of your members? So like $2,000, right? So every new member that comes in on average is going to produce $2,000 for your business, right? Awesome. I go, what's your cost per acquisition right now? And they're like, well, I don't really know. And I'm like, well, you can't really know if you're getting having a good investment in your marketing without knowing your cost per acquisition. So we figure out, let's say it's $100, okay? So in this scenario, they're paying $100 to get a member. And that member value is worth $2,000. All right. So my question to them was, if I gave you a slot machine in your house, and the rules of the slot machine were this: you have to pay $100 to play that machine once. But every time you play it, you are guaranteed a $2,000 return for every $100 you put in. How many times are you going to play that game in 24 hours? You're going to be glued to that slot machine nonstop, knowing that $100 gets you $2,000. This person wasn't confident in their marketing because they didn't know what they were paying to acquire a member, which means this number meant nothing. Because what are you comparing this against, right? Part of the reason that for my business is I am super confident in marketing our business, and not just because I know how to market, it's because I know that if I'm getting, like at Move, for example, if I'm getting a $2,400 return on 112 cost per acquisition, throw money at that marketing machine all day for me, please. Like, just let those $2,400 memberships keep rolling in. I will do that all day for $112. That data makes me a more confident marketer than all my competition, because I know how much we're paying to acquire someone, and I know how much we're getting on the back end once we have that person as a member. It gives you the competitive edge, guys. Data gives you the competitive edge. It also helps you to spot weaknesses and holes in your business faster, especially when you're looking at some of this stuff daily, right? So we have daily stats that we look at, we have monthly stats, we have quarterly, and we have annual, okay? And these are all things that we're paying attention to. The other thing that this is gonna help with, specifically focused on data, is your mental health. And here's what I mean by that, all right? When we're entrepreneurs, we're not paying attention to all the data. Most entrepreneurs are only paying attention to monthly data, okay? And here's the problem when you're only looking at monthly. You might be doing great, you don't know it, because you're not comparing it to anything else, right? So we do like year over year and month over month comparisons, okay? Meaning, if I'm looking at May of this year, okay, and I see that we did, let's just say $40,000, right? Is that good or bad? Well, it's irrelevant, because it depends where you were last month or where you were last May to be able to compare that against something, right? Also, I don't know what your profit margins are. That comes into play as well. We'll get to that later. But a lot of times we get down on ourselves because we don't think we're doing good enough with our business. If you're that person, I encourage you to not only know your data, but to compare it to the previous year when you're looking at your data. Okay, we had a month here where we had more cancellations than normal. And I was sort of in that mindset of like, man, we suck this month. Like, we're having a terrible month. And then we looked at it compared to a year ago, and we've had extreme growth since a year ago. And I was like, oh, I'm just a dumbass, and I'm staring at 1 month instead of actually comparing it to where we came from last year. When I compare it to where we came from last year, holy crap, we're having a really good month, right? So a lot of times data will just help you to put your information in perspective and give you comparisons so you can actually track and see how your growth is going. So gist of this, know your numbers, guys. Know your numbers. It is your responsibility as a business owner to know your numbers. All right, let's go to part 3 now. We call this the triple P. This is not from me. This is from Marcus Lemonis. But he talks about people, processes, and profit. Okay, when you're a new entrepreneur, like if 20-year-old Adam, new entrepreneur, I didn't know what the hell I was supposed to focus on. I was like, let's just see if we can make some money and then find a way to keep that money. Like that was the only goal. And obviously servicing the industry, the martial arts industry when I launched Level Up. But I really honestly had no idea what the heck I was doing when I launched my first business. I learned a lot from it. I made a ton of mistakes, all good though. So going back to 20-year-old Adam, I would be telling him that as the CEO, there's really three main categories that you should be focusing on as you continue to scale and build your business. So people, do I have the right people in the right seats? It's not just about finding the rock stars and the diamonds in the rough and the A+ players. Okay, it's about making sure that not only do we find the right people, but they are in the right role within your company. Okay, I'm going to get to hiring in a little bit here as well. There's been many times I hired good people and put them in the wrong seats. And what happens is when you do that, they're not able to use their superpower. They're not able to actually do what you hired them for. I remember I got hired for a very large company at one point, and I got hired as customer service, which I'm decent at customer service, but it's not like marketing was my thing, right? So they had me in a customer service role for the first few months, and I felt like I was doing okay at it. But it wasn't like my thing. It wasn't my superpower. Then they moved me over to marketing and I started crushing it for marketing. I became more confident instantly by them putting me in that right seat. And then what happened is I did such a good job at marketing that they started giving me all these other responsibilities that were not marketing. And I did really, really good at those other responsibilities. But also that whole time, I also felt like my superpower wasn't being used like it should be. Like I felt like I was doing so many different things that I couldn't focus in on marketing and just making it fantastic and out of this world, right? Your employees are going to feel like that too when they have a superpower and it's not being used. So how do you figure that out? Well, the data is going to help you to see, do I have the right people and are all the people in the right seats? Also at your one-on-one, sometimes it's just good to ask like, hey, do you have any skill sets that you feel like we're underutilizing or not utilizing at all? We had a client, I gave him that question doing his one-on-one, and he came back and he goes, Adam, he's like, you know me. He goes, I hate spreadsheets. Did my one-on-one. I got this guy on my team that freaking loves Excel. He loves making spreadsheets. He knows how to use it inside and out. I don't have to touch spreadsheets again because now this guy can do it. I would have never known that if I didn't ask that question in his one-on-one. I had no idea that he knew how to use Excel. Okay, we just hired a new executive assistant, Nicole. I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to meet her. She's amazing. Nicole has a superpower that her background is in HR. So if we didn't know that, we wouldn't be able to start utilizing her for her superpower, which she's had tons of experience with HR and super organized and awesome already at the other stuff she's doing. But now that we have that information, we're able to start having her assist with some of the things on the HR sides for our companies. But it's about having those right people in the right seats. And sometimes we start with the right people in the right seats. And what tends to happen is when you have someone that crushes it at their job, we just start giving them more responsibility and more responsibility and more responsibility. And all these other responsibilities aren't necessarily in line with their superpowers. We just see them doing good at one thing. So we're like, oh, they must be awesome at everything. Let's give them all of this. And then we do that. And then they get overwhelmed. They get stressed out. And all of a sudden their superpower gets diminished. Okay, that light starts to dim because they have so much stuff on their plate. I'm guilty of doing this too. It's something that we just need to be aware of as CEOs. When we talk about processes, are they proven? So when you make a system, you don't know if it's going to work or not, right? You don't know. But a written down system is better than no system because at least it creates consistency within your team because everyone's doing it the same way, the same thing every single time. Once those are proven, you gotta repeat that process as often as possible because it's making you the right result. The McDonald's hamburger production method has been the same forever. Why? Because it yields their desired result. It is an acceptable burger, not the best burger you've ever had. It is an acceptable burger delivered at an extremely fast pace that is consistent every single time. Right? I'm not a big McDonald's guy, but I know if I go order a Big Mac at this McDonald's and I order a Big Mac at that McDonald's, they're going to be made exactly the same way and taste pretty much exactly the same. Starbucks, same way. They have processes and recipes for their drinks in the order that you're supposed to put all the ingredients in, so that way it always tastes the same every time you drink that drink at a Starbucks. So proven and documented. And then the last part I'm going to say is organized. So does it work? If not, what can you do? You can model it off of systems that already have been proven. Okay, when I first was figuring out the sales system for the one that we teach all of our clients, the one that we use at our school, I had to create the system, right? Well, I didn't know what to create it just out of scratch. Like I have experience selling martial arts, but also my personality is different than a lot of people's personality. So if I create a system just based on what I do, it has my personality involved, and it's not going to be able to be replicated as easily. So what I started doing is I went to like every fitness location. I paid attention to their sales process. I went to a car dealership, talked to them. I didn't take anything from that experience, just so you guys know. But I learned a lot from the fitness industry. And the way that we modeled our pricing was based on what Orange Theory was doing, because it was working. And at the time, they were the largest and fastest growing fitness franchise. So I looked at their sales system, took some elements from that, took some elements from this, and we put it together. We tweaked it over time because it wasn't perfect right away, until we're now able to consistently close at 85%, right? Documented. Is it written down? Is there video training on it? Is there enough documentation that someone could, if they had to, just learn it from reading and watching? Like if worst case scenario, let's say I died today. I hope that doesn't happen, but let's say I died today. All the stuff that I'm doing in my business, is there a blueprint so that anyone else can just step in and be like, oh, I can see what Adam was doing. Let me see if I can figure this out and do it the same way he did. If not, then everyone's just running around with their hair on fire trying to figure out how the hell you were doing what you were doing, right? There's no way to replicate it. I had a story from the son of a school owner I was talking to, and he was telling me about a time when his dad had to go to the hospital. I think he was having a heart attack, if I remember correctly. His dad had a heart attack, is going to the hospital, and his dad, while he's on the gurney, is calling all the instructors at the school, verbally telling them what to teach that night, because he's not going to be there. If you have systems and processes, that doesn't happen. There's class plans. They just pick it up, they go and teach, and you're good. This guy's literally having a heart attack on a gurney, getting loaded in the ambulance, and is calling and communicating drills and class plans to his team because nothing's written down or systemized. We don't want that to happen. And then organize. Is it organized where it's easy to find the SOP or the system that your team is looking for? Okay, and then profit. Is your business making money or keeping money? Okay, a lot of businesses make money but never keep the money. A lot of business owners make money but never keep the money. I remember this was eye-opening for me 1 year early on in business. I had a company, one of my first companies I started, we were making $36,000 a month. So nothing crazy, but for being a one-person show with one part-time employee running that company, $36,000 is pretty good profit, you would think. The end of the year, I remember I sat down with my accountant at the time, and this is still Adam, very new to business, very raw, not really knowing what the hell he's doing. And I'm talking to my accountant, and my accountant's like, hey, he's like, you had a killer year. He's like, you guys grew. He goes, you guys see what you profited? And I was like, no, what did we profit? He's like, $250,000. I was like, hell yeah. And then I look at my bank account, and there's like $5,000 in my bank account. And I was like, the math isn't mathing. Hold up a second. I profited $250,000, which means I should have $250,000 in my bank account, right? So why do I only have $5,000 in my bank account? And he's like, well, you spent the profit. And I was like, shit. I was embarrassed in that meeting. I was like, I'm $245,000 short of what I should have actually profited based on what's sitting in my bank account and based on what you're telling me on my P&Ls. I was like, I messed up something. I need to get better at this, right? Profit is what helps you to increase your impact in the community and in the lives of others. Because here's the thing, when I started becoming very profitable and making more personal income as well, it allowed me to help out more causes. So like the Maloof Foundation is a cause that I've supported for a few years. where they help to stop child sex trafficking. That's their whole goal. The Tim Tebow Foundation, similar goal. I've been able to donate to them as well, and a bunch of other different charities and organizations. But none of this was able to happen until I was actually keeping money that I was making. Because now I have that ability to go make an influence and help out different people. Like our community every year, one of my favorite things to do, I think one of the most rewarding things is like we sponsor almost 10 families a year for Christmas, where we pay for all their gifts for their family. And that is what drives my purpose and my why, is those types of opportunities to be able to really just give back and help other people. Because I'm sure there's been plenty of times in my life where I needed help from someone and someone donated their time or their money to help me when I was at a disadvantage. And that's what fills my heart, is being able to give back to that. But this doesn't exist without this. Yes, I can make an impact with my time, but I can make way more of an impact when I have a surplus of money to be able to give to different causes and different people to really help change their lives, all right? Also, your profit is going to directly influence your team. I want to raise. Well, if I don't have profit, if I don't have money and we're breaking even every month, I can't give them a raise. I can't afford a rock star at a position if we're not profitable. I can't bring in the best people to help grow this business if we're not profitable. Like, that money has to come from somewhere, and it's here. And then the last part of this is it becomes much easier to build your legacy when you have funds to put towards building your legacy. All right? We don't talk about this enough in our industry, but what does your retirement look like? What is your retirement plan? Do you have a retirement plan? Do you have money every month being put into the right things to create passive income that's going to last you the rest of your life? I know probably by the time I'm old enough to get Social Security, I don't think it's going to even exist. I'm not relying on the government to help me with anything when I retire. I want my money to be going places now that are going to set up for the future. And I think one of the problems is many of us are not willing to give up discomfort now for comfort later. And what's going to happen is, because we're not willing to do that now and pull aside more money to put into something that we're not going to see returns on until we're older, that's scary for a lot of people. That's scary for me for years. But again, going back to profit, if I'm keeping money, I have more money to give. I have more money to hire, to promote. I have more money to build a lasting legacy for my kids, grandkids, and so on. But it doesn't come without this. Okay, so and guess what, guys? This goes back to knowing my numbers. You don't know your expenses. You don't know your revenue. You have no idea what the hell your profit is. Okay, if you don't know where your money is going, you probably don't have much of it. All right, and I'm not saying that to be a dick. I'm just saying that to say I was there before. I had no idea where my money was going. A great book you guys can read is Profit First, which is the accounting method that we use for a lot of our businesses. It just helps you to rethink about how your money is being organized. So definitely read that book. All right. Number 5, lead your way. Asterisk. If you're a terrible leader, don't lead your way. All right. But here's what I'm going to try and communicate for this. My superpower growing up and working for other people is learning a lot of what not to do by seeing what they were doing incorrectly. Okay, and part of that is how they manage people, how they lead people. I was able to learn a lot from previous employers about, like, man, I would never want to treat my employees that way, because I would see how the employees would respond to something that they said. So for me, it gave me a different perspective on how I want to lead, where I feel like I'm a very empathetic leader, people first, lead with my heart type of person. Hopefully my team agrees with that. I don't know. We'll find out. And that's always been the way that has served me the best, served my people the best, and served the company the best. I've had different moments in my life where I've had a mentor or maybe a business partner or someone that was like, Adam, you're too kind, you're too loving, you need to be 25% more asshole. You need to do this way. And the weird thing is, there's times that I can think of where I would actually try and lead that way because that person that I looked up to or respected told me to lead that way. And every time I did it, it didn't get the right result and it just didn't feel right. It didn't feel like it was me. It felt like me playing a part as a leader. So for me, I would tell 20-year-old Adam, like, hey, if you want to lead with your heart and lead with love, I'm not saying make emotional decisions. I'm not saying to make decisions based on your feelings. What I'm saying is leading with love, leading like you're leading people and not like employees of a corporation, not number pushers, not like that, but like actually leading with your heart and doing what's right for the person first. I always find that's the best way to lead. We recently had an employee put in their 2-week notice, and he told me that they got a job somewhere else and they're making $20,000 more a year. And I said, I would have took that job too, man. I'm happy for you. That's awesome. I want to see you be successful, regardless if it's with us or with it, whether it's you doing something else. At the end of the day, I care about your success. That is me. That's how I lead. I lead by the heart. That's what works for me. It doesn't mean that it works for everyone else. Okay, there's some great leaders out there that are known to be assholes, or they're looked at as being assholes, but it works for them. They create loyalty because they have high standards and all of these things. So my message to 20-year-old Adam would be, find the way that you get the best response with leadership. And by response, I mean results, so company growth, and also just relationship-wise with the people that you're with, and lead that way. Other people will try and push their leadership ways onto you. If it doesn't feel right in your gut, keep going your way. Okay, lead your way. Next one. God, this was a long lesson on this next one. All right, hire your weakness. Every time I've done this, it's paid off in dividends. Let me rewind to Adam in his 20s and how he would hire. So I knew one general rule of hiring when I was first hiring people is that you hire based on personality, not skill, because you can't teach personality to someone, but you can teach a skill to someone. So that was my guiding light, and it's true. I think it's a very true statement, but there's a whole lot I didn't know about hiring to go along with that rule. So when I first hired people, I would almost go into the interview and just be like, well, if I like this person and I'd like to hang out with them, and because I'm going to have to spend all day with them, that means they probably have a good personality and I should hire them. Here's what happens when you do that. You hire a bunch of friends, because all your hiring is based on people that you want to spend time with or hang out with. And not even people that are currently your friends. I'm not even saying that, but you just hire people that would be good friends. It doesn't mean that they're hard workers, doesn't mean that they're in the right seat on the bus, doesn't mean they're going to help you with anything. And in most cases, when I hired people that were my friends, I wasn't hiring for my weaknesses, so those weaknesses stayed very relevant in the business. And then as I was hiring friends, I became friends with them. And then they would take advantage of the friendship because I was also their friend and their boss. And then they wouldn't show up on time, or they wouldn't show up at all. They wouldn't hit deadlines. And they're like, come on, dude, just give me a break. You know. And that was the conversation. That was a terrible decision. Okay. So instead, I was pretty much just hiring carbon copies of myself for a while. A great sense of humor, extremely good looking, but that was about it. So we hire for your weaknesses. So do this inventory first, where you just on a piece of paper, super simple. You just label 2 columns, strengths and weakness. And then you have a brutally honest conversation with yourself, where everything that you feel like you're great at, you're going to write down as a strength. Anything that you feel like you are terrible at, you write down as a weakness. Now, when you're making this weakness column, some of this stuff should hurt to put on paper. Like you should feel it all up in your feels when you write it on this side. And a good example of this is the first time I did this exercise, I remember I was at a hotel room in New York. It was one of the nucleus events for Perella back in the day. But I'm in my hotel room and I'm doing this exercise. And in my strengths, I wrote down good with money. And then I just pulled my pen away from the paper and stared at it for a second. And then I opened up my Chase app on my phone and I looked at my bank account, which had a couple $100s in it. And this wasn't when I was working for Perella, by the way. I was way before that. But I'm looking at this thing that I'm telling myself is a strength. But when I look at the data doesn't reflect that money management or making money is a strength of mine whatsoever. When we do this, we have to be careful because we tell ourselves lies about things that we're good at that we're really not good at, right? A lot of times in the past when I've done this, I will have someone close to me look it over and be like, is this accurate? And they'll be like, what are those 3 doing as strengths? You suck at those. And they hold you accountable for that, right? And they keep you humble on those things. And then I have this list now. I'll be honest, I really didn't pay too much attention to the strength list. I was really focused on this weakness list after I wrote it. And when I looked at this, I just started thinking, well, what things in this list are keeping me from being where I want to be in life? Well, I suck at money, even though I keep telling myself I'm good at it. That's something that has to be changed. That's something I have to get better at. Because if I want to make a legacy, if I want to provide for a family someday, like, guess what, 20-year-old Adam? You got to learn how to manage your finances. And you can't use that your family sucked at it as an excuse for you not learning it, right? And I started looking at all these weaknesses, and I was like, okay, what can I do to turn some of these weaknesses into strengths? Well, I have a couple different options. Can you hire someone that has that strength to help turn that into a strength for your company? At this time, I told you I had a couple $100s in my account. I ain't hiring anyone that's gonna be able to help me with money management at this time. So you know who I did hire? Because I hired Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I didn't hire Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I bought the book because I could afford $15 barely. And that was the first thing that really opened my mind up to all the wrong things I was doing with money and was taught to do with money. Okay, and then after a while, I was able to get the right accountant, and I was able to get a financial advisor and all of that stuff. But it started broke 20-year-old Adam. I was probably like 25 at the time, actually, getting Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and that being the first step. Now, some of these you'll be able to fix. Like Kelly Murray was hired for our company. Why? Because I read the book, 13 Fatal Errors That Managers Make. And I asked my team at the martial arts school at the time, I was like, hey guys, which one of these is the biggest thing that I suck at out of these 13 fatal errors that managers make? And they're like, training people. Like, you like to show up once, then you expect them to have it done as well as you. And you don't have a lot of patience for training, which is all 100% true. Like, it is one of my biggest weaknesses as a leader is training other people. So what did I do? I hired Kelly Murray, like the best at training people. I'm like, let's get Kelly in here because she loves that stuff. I hate that stuff. She's great at it. I suck at it. And that's why we work so well together. Like, her strengths are my weaknesses, my strengths are her weaknesses. And then we have some overlap on things that we both do really well. But all the best hires I've ever made in my career are people that are really the weak, that fulfill the weaknesses that I have. Even to the fact that I had all of my employees one time do a Myers-Briggs personality test. The managers of my martial arts school, the manager of the agency at the time, and my wife all had the exact same personality identifiers, like exactly the same. To the point that we were all at dinner one night and they're like, you collect us. But guys, I didn't marry by design to marry to my weaknesses, although, like, if you've met my wife, her strengths are like all my weaknesses. But it's just that habit of like finding the compatible people that are going to sort of fill the pieces in on the puzzle that you're missing, right? And that's what I've become very good at over the years, is finding those people to really fill in those missing puzzle pieces. So for you guys, don't hire just because you want to hang out with them. Hire based on fulfilling those weaknesses. Okay, next, coming back to touch on money, study the wealthy. Can we put our tinfoil hats on for a second and jump into like a conspiracy theory real quick? All right. Does school teach you about money? No. I took accounting classes in college, and I still didn't learn how to generate passive income. I didn't learn how to invest. I just learned how to organize money for other people and classify things, right? So the education system doesn't teach you how to be wealthy. If we look at the media and we look at entertainment, so let's just look at this. Bad guys are all rich. Ebenezer Scrooge, who's Scrooge McDuck. All of these kids movies when we were little that had like the big bad corporate CEO, they're always the bad guys. You never saw like the rich guy except like, was that Richie Rich movie? You never saw the rich guy being the good guy. Okay, Batman is like our last hope. Batman and Iron Man, right? But we don't learn about money in school. The entertainment industry and media tells us rich and wealthy equals bad. How often do we see Elon Musk getting like just crucified online for stuff, right? Bad guys, rich. And we never get taught about money. So if we don't learn it in the education system and the media is telling us that, hey, having all this money makes you an asshole, which some of the nicest people I've ever met are wealthy people. They have such big hearts. And there still are rich assholes. I'm not saying there aren't. But this is what we grew up learning. Nothing about money and that having a lot of money makes you bad. That is not true. One of the best pieces of advice I heard about money is that it amplifies who you are. So if you are already an asshole before you got money, you become more of an asshole with money. If you are already a generous, loving person before you had money, when you get money, it just amplifies the generosity and the love that you can give out, right? You become more of that. And I really think that's true. And I've seen that time and time again. If you see a morally corrupt person get money, they just become more morally corrupt. If you see a morally good person get money, I also see that they become even more morally good in the sense that they're helping out more people and looking for those opportunities to really make an impact, right? So it is our responsibility, our personal responsibility, since the education system and entertainment is not going to help us with this, that we need to do our best to study the wealthy. Now, how do you do that? You do it from reading books. You do it from looking at their decisions. You do it from studying the right people. Like, I know Warren Buffett is super popular to study on money, and I would recommend everyone listen to what he says. But Charlie Munger, his partner, that guy says some super intelligent shit about money. And I know he passed recently, but Charlie Munger to me was like more worth studying than Warren Buffett even. Like he was always in the shadows. He let Buffett be the face, but he was the one making moves. Just like Roy Disney and Walt Disney. We hear about Walt Disney so much more than we hear about Roy Disney, but Roy Disney, he was the guy making sure that they had money for things. He was the guy digging them out of holes when Walt Disney would almost go bankrupt because his film didn't do as well as they thought it would be. So I encourage you guys to find people that are wealthy and share the same values as you and study that. There's certain people I know are wealthy that I don't study them because their values don't align with mine. Because they're more about just making money and being greedy assholes. And that's going to be some people, right? I don't want to learn from those people. What I do want to learn from is I want to learn from the people that have family first values, that lead with love, that care about their team members, and that have also achieved success with wealth and money management. And those are a lot of people that I bring to our clients. There's a lot of people that I bring on the podcast as well. Next part. This is the one thing that has always paid me a return on my investment. Invest in you. So I have a few stories I can tell on this that are going to seem crazy, but guess what, guys? I don't need you to understand me. It's okay. Invest in you. So about 2 different times that these are 2 extreme stories. There's other things I've invested in that are not this extreme that still gave me a return on the investment. My very first business mentor I ever had was someone in the martial arts industry. And I had just started my first company at the time. And I remember I was at Columbia College in Chicago and I was sitting in like the common area. I remember it was super loud. I could barely hear this guy on the phone, but we're talking. And I remember I had 2 clients at the time that were paying me $100 a month. So I had $200 in my account because they were both brand new. And I'm talking to this business mentor and he's like, all right, Adam, he's like, I think I can help you. And I definitely believe he could help me. He did help me. So I met with him. He's like, all right, to get started with coaching, it's $199 a month. And I remember knowing for a fact I had $200 in my account. And I was like, shit. I was like, I'm going to have $1 if I sign up with this coach. And not only that, like my wife and I think we're engaged at the time. I don't think we were married yet. But I'll have to do the math on what year it was. But we're either really serious, engaged, or married, one of the two. And I remember just thinking, if I go home and tell my wife that there's $1 in the account, I'm probably going to get kicked in the balls. And then also on top of that, I was also thinking in my brain, do I have enough gas to get back home and back to school tomorrow before I get paid again? Because if I don't have enough gas to get back home, I'm screwed too, because I only have $1 in my account. So all these things are going through my head. And I figured out that I was like, all right, I have enough gas. I recently put gas in my car. And my wife has always been supportive of me investing in myself and pursuing my goals and dreams. So I'm just going to do it. Also, 20-year-old Adam, always talk to your spouse before making decisions like this. All right, bro? But anyway, so I make that decision. And like I said, we're doing $200 a month. The end of that year, I think we're doing $10,000 a month. Nothing crazy, but from $200 to $10,000, I'll take that. Fast forward 2 years later, I was doing $36,000 a month. And this is all online business, right? But that came from investing in me. The first mastermind I joined, this was a dumb decision. But again, for some reason, when I invest in myself, it pays off. I had this goal of joining this mastermind called War Room, like since I first found out about it. Shout out to Michael Perella, whether you love him or hate him. He took me to my first War Room meeting. And I just got introduced to a higher caliber of people that I've been around before as far as like business people goes, right? And I remember I sat in that room, I walked in that room, and I remember looking around, and it was like best-selling authors, like Fortune 500 company, like all these amazing people that I'd grown up reading their books, looking up to. And I was like, I'm going to be in this room someday on my own accord where I'm going to be able to pay and be a part of this. So fast forward maybe three or 4 years later, I'm running my own company now, and I have this opportunity to join War Room. And I remember I'm sitting there, and I want to say it was $25,000 or $30,000 for the year at that time, and you pay it all at once. So it wasn't like a monthly payment thing. So Adam over here has this new credit card, and guess what? The limit's $30,000 on it. And I remember sitting there, and I was like, this is going to go one of two ways. Either I'm going to say no, and then I'm just going to have to save money and save money and save money until I can pay it all at once. Or, Adam, you can bet on yourself, because I have a habit of taking a risk, going all into myself, and because I know what the risk is, working my ass off until I hit my goal. I've done it multiple times. So me betting on myself was not something new. It's not something I'd recommend for everyone to do it this way. I don't think it was financially intelligent to do it this way. But I put $30,000 on my credit card to join that room. And we fast forward, we'll do a little Q&A. How long do you guys think it took Adam to pay back the $30,000 that he put on his credit card? Jeopardy music now. It was a month and a half. It took me a month and a half to pay that back. Now, I didn't have a whole bunch of money. I didn't think I was going to pay it back in a month and a half when I took it out. I took it out and I was like, it's going to take me 5 years to pay this off. What I did do really well, though, is I sat in that room and I listened and I implemented like a beast. Everything from that first meeting that I thought could help make the business better, that could help increase revenue, that could be an asset to the business, I implemented right away. And one of the first things I did was I launched the agency after joining. And within the first month, month and a half, I guess, in that first month and a half, I was able to pay off the entire credit card bill. And it was just taking the things I learned from that room and putting it into practice. The reason I say not everyone can do that, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, is a lot of people I see at these events that are in the same room as me, and they never grow. And it's because there's no urgency on their side to actually implement. For me, I had $30,000 of debt as my urgency to kick ass and implement. So when it comes to the idea of investing and getting the best return on my investment, I would say 90% of the time it's investing in me to get the best return on it. Because I'll learn a new skill, I'll learn a new way of doing something that I'd never heard of before, then I'll implement it. And it either makes us more money or it helps us save money by making us more efficient in what we're doing. Always invest in yourself. Time, money, energy. As long as you implement, that's going to pay off. All right. This one might come from recent learnings. trust and verify. So old Adam just would focus on this side. So my whole policy for years, and this has changed more recently, I would trust you until you gave me a reason not to trust you. That's just how I've always been. I think most people are good-natured, and I think most people, if you put your trust in them, will actually fulfill on their side of things and do what they're supposed to do. I'm a little iffy on that at the moment. The new motto is trust and verify. Yes, I'm going to still start out by trusting people, but I'm also going to continually, during that process, verify that they deserve that trust and they've earned that trust as well. And for me, I was trusting blindly because I wasn't verifying like I should have been. So now it's, yes, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Yes, I'm going to put my trust in them, but also I'm going to consistently make sure that that trust is earned trust and not just blindly given. Next, probably one of the more important ones on here. This one is determine your self-worth. Having been around entrepreneurs and successful business people and millionaires and multimillionaires and all these different people, martial arts school owners too, okay? One of the rampant problems in the entrepreneur world is depression, suicide, and then that depression often leads to alcohol, drugs, all these different things that become addictions when they're not checked, right? And for me, I think a big part of this, and obviously I'm not a therapist or psychologist or any of that, but I think a big part of this is that people are attaching their self-worth to things that are not in their control. Here's what I mean. Young Adam used to attach self-worth to how his business was doing and how much money he was making. Well, what's the problem with that? What do you do when a pandemic hits and your entire self-worth is based on your business performance and how much money you're making? Well, I'll tell you what happens. You start to get depressed because you feel like you're of no value without those things. But you got to remember, the amount of money you make, yes, it's somewhat in your control, but there's also a lot of outside elements that can mess that up, right? Same thing with your business, right? There's other outside elements. Like I was talking to a client earlier today who their landlord just sold the building they're in, and the new landlord is like, you got 30 days to get out. We all know moving a business in 30 days, that's a pain in the ass. That's not cool. But that's something out of their control, right? So for me, and this was a lesson I didn't learn until a few years ago, honestly, I had to change what I was attaching to my self-worth to and really leave it to things in my control. So what are the things in my control? Well, how I show up as a father to my kids, that's directly in my control. How I show up as a husband to my wife, directly in my control. How I show up as a mentor or leader to others, directly in my control. And then just how I show up in the relationships in my life. These are what determine my self-worth. And I'll add one more to this is how closely my actions follow my core values. Have you guys watched the video I did on setting the record straight? I swear, one of the main things that made sure I kept it together through all those allegations, through all those messages and all that stuff, is in my heart, I knew that I followed and acted on my core values. I knew that I did nothing that was being said of me online and in this article. I knew that for a fact. And that is what helped me to maintain my self-worth through all of this. And the positive that came out of this is it brought me closer to my kids, brought me closer to my wife as a result. Not that we weren't close, but those bonds strengthened during all of this because it was almost like us against the world for a little bit there, right? So my self-worth did not decrease during this in any way. Now, if it was attached to the opinions of other people, I would have been so depressed through all of this, like insanely, probably suicidal, during all of this, if it was attached to the opinions of other people. Even if it was attached to my money or my business, those took hits drastically throughout all of this. And if my self-worth was attached to those, again, I probably would have been extremely depressed or suicidal as a result. But what anchored me and made me know that my self-worth was still high is all of these things, right? And I even feel like I dropped this ball during this, being able to show up as the mentor and leader that I should because of everything I was dealing with. But the fact that I knew I was following my core values, I knew I was showing up as a father and a husband, and I knew that I was still nurturing the relationships I had with my friends. I was still calling to my friends and checking in with them during all of this, regardless of what I was going through. This is what made me maintain my self-worth and my sanity during all of this. So I think that the biggest takeaway, if you're watching this, is don't put your self-worth on things outside your control. And the worst thing you could ever do is put your self-worth and make it determined by the opinions of other people, because it's always going to let you down, right? No one's going to understand you as you start to get more successful. People are going to feel uncomfortable because you are outgrowing them as you become more successful. And because of that, if I put my self-worth on their opinions, they're always just going to try and keep me at their level. They're never going to want me to grow or move past it. And you get stuck that way. It's not fair to you. So put your self-worth on the things that matter and the things that you have control over in your life. And I'll give you one bonus thing that I would tell 20-year-old Adam next. That may contradict everything I just said, but let's roll with it. Some of the best advice I was given in the last 12 months, Cameron Harold, none of this matters. In the grand scheme of things, what actually matters is relationships, your family, and that's it. All my money, all my businesses could go away tomorrow. I'm not going to, but they could all go away tomorrow. And the only thing that would matter, losing all of that, is my family and the relationships I have with my friends in my inner circle. That's it. Okay. When we attach ourselves to just the money side, when we attach ourselves to just the business side, it's so easy to let that dictate how we think of ourselves, how we feel about ourselves, our mood for the day. But when we sort of have this mentality, like Cameron Harold is extremely successful. He makes a lot of money, I'm assuming. And at the end of the day, he has 2 backpacks full of personal belongings and just travels the world and enjoys time with his significant other and his family, and that's it. He has 2 bags of belongings. You know how much shit I have at my house that we don't need, that my kids don't need? Like, at the end of the day, none of that stuff matters. Just being with your family is the most important thing. And I want you guys to just sort of put that in perspective. It doesn't mean you don't work hard at all these things. It doesn't mean I'm going to stop working hard to build a legacy for my kids and to build up businesses and make an impact in the community and on the planet. But what it does mean is that none of those are going to take priority over my family and my relationships. Just what it is. And again, I'm now keeping focus on the things that I can control and not putting so much weight and importance on things outside of my control. And it's a hard lesson to learn. It's hard to figure out. It took me years to get to this point. I still work on it daily. I'm still not perfect at it. I'm not amazing at it yet, but every day I'm getting better at it. And I hope these lessons that I would have taught 20-year-old Adam become valuable to you. Hopefully, if you have maybe some younger staff members that you want to sort of get the same message, go through these things with them, or teach them the 10 things that you would have told the younger version of yourself so that they can learn from that advice. And it's a great way to just help mentor those people, the people around you as well. So enjoy, guys. Remember to like and subscribe. As always, if you got value out of this, please share it with your friends or anyone that would get value from this video. And we'll see you guys in the next episode.
We're unstoppable, to the top, we about to go. That CEO, I need to know the impact, we about to grow. Competition, comical, straight A1, we on the road. Money focus for the goal, tell them what they need to know. Yeah, we unstoppable.